The president, the commander-in-chief, beats people, physically assaults people. He says, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, that if he were the president of Ghana, he would have ensured that the said journalist, Erastus Asaridongo, is beaten mercilessly. Mr. Speaker, he says that in fact, Erastus Asaridongo should be beaten serious. And Mr. Speaker, this comes in the wake of another such utterances he made in relation to Ahmed Swale, which led, in the view of some people, to the identity of Ahmed Swale being compromised and eventually murdered. Mr. Speaker, I think that as a former journalist, I feel obliged, Mr. Speaker, to draw the House's attention to this conduct of an honorable colleague of this House, which in my view, brings this House into disrepute. And so, Mr. Speaker, I urge you to exercise your powers under 27 and refer this conduct of the honorable member, which is becoming unacceptable, to the Privileges Committee to ascertain the veracity of the comments that were made and recommend sanctions, if possible, that will act as deterrent for future, outings of the honorable member and other members who may be tempted to act like him. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
So that's the Tamale North MP Al-Hassan S. Suhini on the floor of Parliament earlier. So he left the Speaker no choice than to refer it to the Privileges Committee.
Order 78A, and they are, it being an interruption, is also covered under Order 91B, was interruptions are matters of point of order. And so to interrupt the work flow of the House, you need to refer to that order too. And that order deals with matter of privilege suddenly arising. Well, as to whether it suddenly arose is an issue. But the House's attention is drawn to the conduct of one of our members. And under Order 27, which I want to quote in extenso, it says, notwithstanding anything contained in these orders, Mr. Speaker may refer any questions of privilege to the Committee of Privileges for examination, investigation, and report. Notwithstanding anything contained in these orders. In spite of the word notwithstanding, the Speaker is given the discretion, says may refer any questions of privilege. I think that is why the honorable member is seeking my intervention to refer the matter to the Privileges Committee. This is my first time of hearing this matter. As it is now, I am compelled to refer it to the Privileges Committee. It's a matter the Privileges Committee will have to go into and then report to the House. And it's for the House to decide whether the honorable member is contemptuous of the House. In the circumstances, I direct that this matter be referred to the Committee on Privileges for investigation and report to the House. I so direct. We now go back to the order paper addendum.
So that's the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbing. Let's bring in correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Joseph, before we talk about the reaction of the members of this House to this particular directive from the Speaker, first tell us how this matter came up in Parliament in the first place. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Emefa. Good afternoon.
Good. So I'm asking first off how the matter came up in Parliament in the first place.
So this is what happened. Hassan Suhuni, who is the MP for Tamale North, made the point that he had seen out there a letter that had been written to the police CID from the Multimedia Group Limited, raising issues with the said that had gone out from Honorable Kennedy Japong to Erastus Asaredonko. And he thought that it was a very worrying development and felt that for the chairman of Parliament's Committee on Defence and Interior to be named in such an issue, which is actually something that's become the subject of a police investigation, and the Speaker of Parliament is actually copied in the said letter to the police, it was something that the House needed to pay attention to. And he felt that one of the best fora to deal with this was actually the Privileges Committee of Parliament. And so he went ahead, raised the issue on the floor. The Speaker made the point that, he has to refer it to the Privileges Committee. Alexander Pennymarkin, who is the Deputy Majority Leader, was making a point about whether there is enough evidence to actually back any such claim as contained in the details that have gone out. And there was a response to that from Ibrahim Ahmed, who is the Minority Deputy Whip, who insisted that once the Speaker has ruled that a referral to the Privileges Committee should happen, if you want to challenge that, you need to come back with a substantive motion. So eventually the Speaker's directive referring this to the Committee on Privileges is actually what stood, and we're waiting to actually see how things will pan out eventually at that level. Let me just, Emefa, before we move on, get some very quick comments on this from some other members of Parliament. Mm-hmm. Samuel George is a member of Parliament Communications Committee. He's actually the deputy ranking on that particular committee. Honorable, thanks very much for joining us. We saw that you rose up to comment on this and probably second the motion in the course of the deliberation on the floor, but the Speaker went ahead and did the referral. What points were you seeking to make to help the conversation even before the Speaker gave the directive?
Well, I don't know to your listeners. Hassan Suhuni had approached me this morning and spoken about his desire to move this motion. I read the proceedings of the House, and I said I was willing to second it because, as deputy ranking on a committee that oversees the work of the media through the Ministry of Information, the safety of media practitioners and the culture of silence that is creeping into our country is one that we cannot gloss over and we can no longer countenance. And so for a leading member of the House, a senior member of the House, he should be in his fourth term, I believe. And for him to be, he's the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee that is responsible, that oversees our security architecture. And the fact that we have seen similar comments lead to the death of a journalist. It was for me, I was going to write and tell the Speaker that the Committee on Communications, especially the minority side, took strong view of the comments that had been made, and we're going to lend our full support to a parliamentary investigation into the conduct and comments that had been made, because it affected the work of a journalist. It affected the possible safety of a journalist in his ability to discharge his work. I mean, only God knows, and anyone can hazard a guess what Erastus Asaredonko will be going through in terms of the physical and psychological effect of such comments, knowing what a similar comment, and the fact must be made, the comments made about Erastus Asaredonko are grievous, in my view, more grievous than the comments that were made about Ahmed Swale. Because in the case of Ahmed Swale, there was no reference made to the president. But here, you had a leading member of the NCC actually literally speak to the president and say, Mr. President, this is what I would have done if I was in your shoes. So do things. Order the beating of the journalist. I mean, Kennedy Japan is no ordinary person in the NCC. So when he speaks, it does carry a lot of weight.
What do you expect to come out of this? Because in the example you cite with Ahmed Swale, a referral was done to the Privileges Committee. As far as I recall, the committee never sat. The outcome was never known. What's the guarantee that this time around things will be different? And more importantly, what's your expectation by the time the Committee on Privileges finishes its work on this?
I cannot speak to preempt the work of the committee. However, let's be clear that it's important as a country that we draw the line for everybody, because this is an individual whose conduct and comments have gone as far as the Supreme Court. There is a case pending in the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice is unable to hear the case for whatever reason. It lets us know that in Ghana, some people appear to be about the law. Chief Justice of Ghana, he held Aini, a former Deputy Attorney General, before the judicial, the Ghana Legal Council Committee. I mean, he's holding before the Supreme Court for some time. There is a case against Kennedy before the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice cannot act. He's not being dealt with. Well, this parliament has an opportunity to lay down a matter and say that enough is enough. Standards and quality must be adhered to. I mean, he's not just a member of the House. He's the chairman of our Defense and Interior Committee. That is one of the most critical committees of any parliament in the world. Okay, it deals with the homeland security and external security of the country. Now, the ability for journalists to practice their trade safely depends on the ability of the police to be able to provide security for all of them. This is a man who oversees the ministry responsible for the police. And so if such a person is making such a call, then how can the police? And I mean, recently we saw the army brass, the top brass of the Ghana Armed Forces, roll out the red carpet for him after the 7th, when he said he was doing some philanthropic work, which is good work. But the question is, can those same institutions hold him to account? No, but the people's representative, Erastus Asare-Donko's MP, sits in his house. His MP should have been the one moving this motion, because that is why we sit in this house. And so we need to see an instance where Parliament for one will do what is in the best interest of the Ghanaian people.
Samuel George there, he's the MP for Ningo Pampam and Deputy Ranking on the Communication.
Okay, so Joseph, what then happens after this particular referral? But you can walk us through the composition of the committee as well.
And so what is expected next is that the Committee on Privileges would have to then call a meeting and then decide on when they would want to go ahead and hear this. What we know is that in previous times, any such referral that has gone, we've seen the third hearing of it being very public in nature. So just to run you through the details of the MPs who sit on the Privileges Committee who are going to determine this, it's a committee that's chaired by First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, George Sewusu, and then it has Akwesi Owusu Frifa Mensah as the Vice Chairperson. Ricky Tegan, the MP for Cape Coast South, is the ranking member on that committee, with his deputy ranking being Abeku Kento, who is also a minority MP. Looks like a lot of Central Region folks there, similar to where Mr. Kennedy Japan actually hailed from. And then we have Henry Boachi Yadom as one other member, John Frimpong is another member, Stephen Amua, as well as Emmanuel Ejay Anure, and then Suleiman Adamu Sanid. Emmanuel Amakufibwa, who is the MP for Lembela, is on that committee. Samson Ahi, Eric Opoku, Ignacio Bafwe, who is the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Frederick Yawamankwa, Dominic Mitu, who is the Defense Minister and MP for one of the constituencies up north, is also on the committee, as well as Dominic Napare, Kofi Ahenkrama for Teddy Saforiadi, Joseph Kujo, Andrea Japamensa, Joe Gate, and a host of others, including Neil and Vanderpoy and Carlos Ahenka. So those are the MPs who serve on that particular committee, and we're waiting for the committee to call a meeting and decide on the modalities as far as this probe is concerned. It's likely to be a public hearing from what we are being told, after which they are supposed to return with a recommendation to the plenary on what actions should possibly be taken against Mr. Kennedy Japan.
Curious though, was he in Parliament?
I didn't spot him, even as the conversation unfolded on the floor of the House as far as this particular issue is concerned.
Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo, thank you very much for joining us with those details. So the Speaker of Parliament has referred Kennedy Ohene Ejapong to the Privileges Committee of Parliament. That referral came after the Tamale North MP Alhassan Suhini raised the issues about the threat that he meted out or issued to my love firms Erastus Asare-Donko earlier this month. So we look out for the Privileges Committee and what actually will come out of that. But let's stay a while longer in Parliament, but there are other condemnations to the MP, that's the Kennedy Ohinie-Japong, Vice Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Samuel Atamils, is urging the Ghana Police Service to be decisive and deal with the Central MP for threatening Erastus Asare Donkor.
I expect that the police will stop being a part of a political party and do what is right. And I know that there are so many good and professional police officers in the service, and I know that they will do the right thing. Do not let any political party push you away. Be the professional that you are.
So take him on. Is that your expectation?
Yes.
Probably invite him for questioning. Is that what you're hoping could happen?
Anybody who has made any threat to any reporter should be called in, should be questioned, and God forbid anything happens to any reporter. For in their line of duty, those people should be held accountable. No ifs and buts about it. I think it's unfortunate.
How should Parliament as an institution respond? Parliament was copied in the petition that was actually sent to the police, especially when he's a very senior member of the House, Chairman of Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee.
If it's a member of Parliament who has done that, I would assume that the Speaker, in his wisdom, will see how we should go about it. But I think this is something that Parliament needs to wash its hands off. We need to make sure that even if it's one of our own, we need to make sure that we do the right thing.
That's the Vice Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Samuel Atamils there. No, so this is just one of the many condemnations of the threats issued by the legislator, whom many say ought to know better. Today, industry players united in one voice in condemnation and also demanding urgent investigations. So we can hear the GJA, Primpac, Media Foundation for West Africa and other players today addressed a news conference. We can hear from Roland Afilmoni, who spoke on behalf of them.
It can be a fatal gamble to toy with the threats against the life of Erasmus Asare Donkor. Every life is of sacred worth and intrinsic value. The right to life and personal liberty is of primordial importance, which all Ghanaians everywhere and at all times must enjoy. The life of Erasmus Asare Donkor must be protected at all costs, and we urge the National Security Apparatus to take this up with urgent promptitude and utmost seriousness. It is not enough for the petition to the relevant quarters to gain traction. What is most needed is concrete action on all fronts to address the issue. And we shall not rest until something concrete is done. On Ahmed Saleh's assassination, it is significant to note that a report by Journalists Without Borders cited impunity and timid attempts to fight it as the main reason for the decline in Ghana's ranking on the World Press Freedom Index. The latest threats against Erasmus Asare Donkor present another prompting to deal surgically with the cancer of impunity, which is a stain on Ghana's reputation as the citadel of press freedom in Africa.
Mr. Moni also says the laws must work against persons he says are enemies of press freedom.
Freedom is the sure possession of those only who can defend it, quote and unquote. All journalists must be in the front line to defend their freedom with scrupulous regard for the foundational values of truth, fairness, balance, and objectivity. We should work with utmost responsibility and highest sensitivity. As for the enemies of press freedom, the laws must bite and bite them hard, regardless of who they are or what they have. That way, our national motto of freedom and justice will hold true. To all journalists, we urge you to be unafraid and unintimidated as you unravel the truth, expose dark spots, hold power to account, and illuminate society with quality news and information.
That's the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Rolanda Philmoni, today at that press conference, speaking on behalf of a number of media industry players, the GJA, the Primpag, we're told, the Media Foundation for West Africa, and Gibber as well. But my colleague, Kwekwa Sante, today has had a close encounter with the Deputy Information Minister, Fatima Abubakar, today at a press conference that was supposed to be held. And he put this particular question to him. Kweku, first, tell us what she's been telling you.
Right. So when I got the opportunity to speak to Fatima Abubakar, I asked that the presidency as well as other top government officials had been petitioned in this matter. And she said that the information ministry has become aware of the petition that the management of the multimedia group have sent to the police, the NMC, and other bodies. She says she's very confident that these two bodies will be able to deal with the matter as have been sent to them by the leadership of the multimedia group.
Some of these allegations or threats or alleged threats that the office was set up. My understanding is that your institution has already reported this particular issue to the NMC and also to the police. We have set up these institutions, and it is our belief that some of these issues that you have already referred to them will be addressed properly on those platforms.
So that's the Deputy Information Minister, Fatima Abubakar. That's the closest to what we've heard from government so far. But that was a very brief interview. Did we hear any condemnation of a sort? What exactly did she say?
Right. So I tried to get that, to be able to know what exactly they thought about the threat in itself on the journalist. And she said all she could say for now was the idea that the Information Ministry, for instance, has been investing heavily together with the National Media Commission to set up a center where such threats on journalists' lives could be sent to. So they are confident that the body will be able to regulate such matters and that no such things will happen in the future. But she stopped short of a condemnation.
Okay. Well, I've been checking also with the Ashanti Regional Police on this petition because they were officially, that complaint was officially sent to the Ashanti Regional Police, the second in command, the crime officer, amongst others. This petition actually went to the Ashanti Regional Police, and then also others were copied in this. The Ashanti Regional Police is also yet to formally, to officially tell us what exactly it is that they're doing about it, because we had found that they investigate this particular threat and then also provide protection for Erastus Asare Donko. It remains to be seen what actually happens to this. But in the last few minutes, the Speaker has referred Mr. Ken Ohene-Agyapong to the Privileges Committee. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. And Gassim, the nation builder. News Night comes up shortly after this. Please stay with us.